Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages, it is Aussieverse, and we are back, proudly sponsored by Comic Bookaroo. And tonight, it is all about WWE Crown Jewel Perth. And I got to tell you, man, I had a great time watching this show. I do want to give a massive shout out quickly just to our four lifers. Thank you to these guys and gals for making Aussieverse what it is by just contributing that a little bit each and every week. If you want to support Aussieverse, feel free to just subscribe to the channel and like the videos. Now, yeah, man, I don't know if it was because it was a hometown pay-per-view being here in Australia or not, or if I'm just being biased, but I really enjoyed the show. Now, pardon me, it is 2:30 in the morning for me right now, so I'm not firing on all cylinders either. And yeah, Claudia joined me for the whole thing, which I am very surprised at. Now, the thing, no, let's not go to that yet. We'll go to the first match, and that was Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed in an Australian street fight. Now, I was laughing at that to myself because if it's an Australian street fight, well, someone's getting bottled. That's what I always thought. But no one got bottled. Instead, Roman Reigns, I was so surprised with how well he worked the crowd. He was so good at his job tonight. And I don't know if it's because I'm so used to the heel Roman Reigns, or if it's because he hasn't been around that much, or I don't know what it is, but I just noticed that tonight he was working that crowd something fierce. And it was really good to see, man. And I would have put money on Bronson losing this match. But you know, he didn't. He won, and I just couldn't believe it. It was quite a shock because, as you know, most wrestling fans know, people in their hometowns don't win. You know, there are exceptions to the rule, obviously, but yeah, I did not expect Bronson Reed to win. There was a lot of interference, however, though. So obviously, you know, the first, 2 quarters of the match were really good, one-on-one. They were going all around the arena. They were using a lot of weapons and stuff. Your typical match, but it was still very good. Bronson Reed put on a hell of a show as well. But then when all the interference was happening, it was very, reminiscent to every single Raw that you do see, or SmackDown, or whatever the hell shows they're on. So that was a bit of a shame. But then when the Usos came out, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do get, to the Australian crowd at least, it gives them an opportunity to be able to see these superstars. So, I guess you can't really complain when it comes to something like that. But when there was interference, Jay Uso speared Roman Reigns, and I'm not quite sure where they're going with this storyline, because for a while now they've been doing all this Jay kind of turning to the dark side, but not. So I don't think they're going to make Jay a heel, but I don't know where they're going with this. But I'm kind of excited to see where it does go. Now, the other thing I do want to mention is the setup there in Australia. I don't know if I noticed it for the first time tonight, or if it's been this way for a little bit, but I did notice that they didn't have those big, massive pillars as well that blocks so much of the vision of the show. And if that's the way that it is from now on, well, that's just fantastic. I feel like this is a very positive review tonight, which is not really the case with WWE PLEs or pay-per-views or whatever the hell. Next, we had Tiffany Stratton versus Stephanie Vaquer for the Crown Jewel Championship. This was pretty damn good too. I didn't know who was going to win. I did a little bit have my money more on Stephanie, but with Tiffany being undefeated all in 2025, it did make me think, maybe Tiffany's going to get this one. But then again, Stephanie had a rocket up her ass for all of the year as well. So it was a really tough decision. And in the end, obviously, it was, well, not obviously, but it was Stephanie Vaquer. And these guys really put on a great show. They really went toe to toe and really, really tried their hardest to entertain the crowd. Also Stephanie, she was so vicious. Tiffany really tried to play the babyface, mostly putting out her hand to shake it, and Stephanie just kicked it away. But on top of that, Stephanie was vicious. There was a lot of points where I'm like, man, I didn't really expect a babyface to be wrestling like this. But it was good to see. I'm not complaining. It was just a point that I wanted to make. There was also a couple of bits in the match that really didn't flow that well, more towards the start of the match. But, it is live TV, so you are going to have that. Now, the rest of the pay-per-view was just absolutely stellar. Everything else so far was great, but the rest of it was just on another level. You had John Cena versus AJ Styles, man. And, regardless of all the bullshit that they say about it, we, the fans, made this match happen. I am so glad that it happened, that after you finish watching it, I don't know, man. I'm trying to work out how much of it was rehearsed and spoken about before the match and how much of it was made up on the fly, because it really looked like a lot was. What am I talking about? John Cena has been doing these homages to his past opponents in his last couple of matches. He's done a couple of homages like that. And in this one, he started off, I think it was by doing the Miz's, whatever the hell the Miz's move is. And, you go, oh, yeah, cool. And then John Cena did somebody else's move. And then AJ went and did a Shawn Michaels super kick. And it went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. John Cena did way more, but it was just unbelievable. It was the biggest fan service match I've ever seen in my life, and I was all for it. It was so freaking amazing. Ryan, thank you for joining me. Yeah, I agree. I think we're seeing more grey baby faces like with Punk and LA Knight. Yeah, more of that Attitude Era baby faces. I hope so. Because I like that, man. It can't be so black and white, I don't think, with these characters. But back to John Cena and AJ Styles, man, these guys really put it out there. They looked like they had so much fun as well. And they were doing so many, John Cena specifically was doing so many finishing moves of past opponents that at one time the crowd, who, by the way, 1/3 of the whole audience was wearing John Cena shirts. It was a sea of yellow, and it was freaking great. But there was one point in the match where they did those moves so much that the crowd started chanting 619. And I turned to Claudia and I'm like, oh man, there's no way he's doing that. And what do you know? John Cena didn't do it, but he went for it. He kicked AJ. AJ went in the classic pose of the ropes. John Cena went to do it, and AJ got up and smashed him. But man, it was I know there will be an argument on the other side of this where people will be like, no, man, it was bullshit. It was, fan service, like I said. And, but it was, you never see that. And because it's John Cena's final match overseas as well, and it's his 5th last match ever, who cares? Let the guy just have fun. And, it's not something, I don't know if you want to see it in his last match ever, but to see that, in one of his last matches, I think it's really special to see just people, to AJ and John, go out there and just have fun. It was it was a great match, and I loved it. John Cena ended up doing, in the end, Tombstone pile driver to AJ for the win. So he did the Undertaker's move, man. And I was pretty shocked at that one because, that's a pretty dangerous move. And we have seen other people do it in the past, I guess. But, You definitely don't see that from anybody anymore. Next up, we had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus the Kabuki Warriors. And whoa, man, this was a killer match too. Ryan says, way better than I'm going to ruin wrestling John Cena. Just pure fun. Virtually no on-screen build. Yeah, man. And we can at least remember some matches on his farewell tour. 100%. Now, the Kabuki Warriors versus Rhea Ripley and Io Sky was truly a special match, man. You know, as much as we want to see Rhea Ripley in Australia wrestle, you really didn't need Rhea in this match. The fact that it was Asuka versus Io, these girls, well, all four of them really, but these two especially, they beat the shit out of each other, man. You know, I don't know if it's, well, it would be. I guess it's the whole Japanese, you know, strong style wrestling. But I'm telling you, watch this match. These girls, so many times, over and over and over and over again, kicks to the faces and punches to the this and their elbows to the. They were beating the shit out of each other, and I don't remember the last time I've seen women do that. You know, not legitimately. You know, it just goes to show how well these girls know each other. The fact that they can go to those lengths and know that everything's going to be fine. And obviously, yeah, it is a part of that strong style Japanese wrestling style. But man, you just don't see that. You don't see that in WWE. And it was so good, man. It was such a killer match. Then they chant. The Australian audience started chanting "Asuka is a wanker," which was funny. I don't know why it's more funny hearing it being chanted to a woman, but it is. And the crowd all night were on fire as well, by the way. I remember last Perth, I'm like thinking to myself, the crowd really probably could have been a little better. I remember at times the Perth crowd were being a bit dicky with some of their chants, but tonight they really, man, they just, the whole show, they were really, really, really good, man. Then, we had the last match, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins for the Crown Jewel Championship. And the story to this match, I thought was a little, it was great, but borderlining on the cheesy factor with the whole watch storyline. But Steph, you know, I'm in two minds. One part of me really enjoys it, but another part's a bit cheesy, where they did the kickoff show and Seth Rollins just the whole time is just staring at his watch, you know, not even acknowledging the crowd, and then he just walked off. Go look it up on YouTube. But these two fought real hard, man. You could tell that after the crowd was so pumped from John Cena and oh my god, I'm way too tired here. John Cena and AJ Styles, the crowd was so pumped with that match that you could tell that Seth and Cody really wanted to try and up that match and be the match of the night. And some might say they were, but they really left it all out there, just like their predecessing matches. It was a fantastic back and forward. I think it's a bit of bullshit that when it happened anyway, that Cody could kick out of a pedigree and then a curb stomp. But the fact that, you know, Seth kind of paid it back later with kicking out of stuff, I guess, you know, all right, whatever. At one point, Seth goes to get the watch and use it as a weapon, and then he hesitates and puts the watch down. And because of that, obviously, Cody smashed him, right? But then Seth goes, man, and does a coast-to-coast headbutt, which was amazing, man. Cody Rhodes is upside down in the ropes, in the corner, and Seth crawls to the other side and just dives all the way, man. It was freaking beautiful. Cruella was how Seth Rollins was dressing, apparently. And Captain America, yeah, that's true. But that dive was just fantastic. Then Seth Rollins got really pissed off and used the watch and smashed Cody anyway. And then he did a curb stomp from the second rope. And he won. He won. And you know what, man? It's so rare that I walk away from a pay-per-view feeling like I've watched a great show. And tonight really was a great show. Again, is it because I'm tired and it's bias? And again, I will say that I don't know how everybody else feels watching wrestling in their hometown on TV, because it doesn't really happen here, but it is a different feeling. You know, you do sort of watch it with a bit of different eyes. So that could be a reason why I enjoyed tonight a lot more than usual as well. But still, man, it was great. It was great. I guess next, what is it, October now? I guess next we have Survivor Series War Games, which is setting up to be most likely the Family Tree versus the Wyatt Six. But I feel like that's obviously not enough, right? You need something else. But either way, there we go. We will have a quick word from our sponsor, and I'll be back with one more thing. Comic Bookaroo, proud sponsors of Aussieverse for all your comic book needs. Graphic novels, hardcovers, omnibuses, single issues. Don't forget to pre-order every Sunday at Comic Bookaroo. I have nothing. I just catfished you.